Literary Festival. It is wonderful to hear about the Lahore Literary Festival, and it's wonderful to hear that it's undergoing in the great cultural and historical city of Lahore, where we can see that there have been great poets and historians and artists, and we have great poets such as Allama Iqbal, and we have Faiz Ahmad Faiz and Habib Jalib, and I'm really happy that we have all taken this step to show art to people and to show literature to people in our society, because it's very necessary and it's an important part of our life, because it's not just poetry or writing books, it's also sharing your feelings with other people in society, and it's like a relationship of one community with other community. And also, you tell your message to other people, and I think it's necessary in Pakistan, and especially it's necessary to children so that they take interest in reading books. And I'm really sorry that I couldn't be there, but still, I think it's a great opportunity for me to talk to you, and I hope that one day I may join you all, inshallah. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. Thank you.
Doesn't really require an introduction. She is the reason why all of you are here today. But just a quick introduction. Shobha she's so many amazing different things, and it's very hard to do justice to her colorful and prolific life in just a few lines, but I'll try. Shobha in her early life, when she first started journalism, she was the editor, and she founded 3 magazines, Stardust, Society and Celebrity. She's a very prolific novelist. She's written over 20 novels, which have been translated into over 25 languages. Currently, she writes columns for 4 mainstream newspapers, including the Times of India and Asian Age, which enjoy a readership of tens of millions of people. So that puts her as one of the most powerful women in India currently. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
The thing that I admire most about Shobha is that she's been speaking about feminism, about LGBT rights, against powerful celebrities, businessmen, politicians, long before it was trendy to do so, and long before it was possible to do so. She carved out a space for herself to speak up in a country and in an industry that was not always ready to listen. And today that's made her one of the most respected and one of the most feared women in the industry. I've always personally admired Shobha quite simply for her courage and her guts to speak, write, and live life on her own terms. I think it's a very refreshing and it's a very rare quality to have. So it's with great pleasure that I represent you to Lahore and to the LLF today.
Thank you for inviting me to what could become a very, very important big fest down the years, maybe even 2 years from now. Big fest, but there are some which are unique and special because of the city that they are hosted by and the people who run those festivals. And Lahore and I were coming on that flight from Mumbai to Amritsar, and then across the border. And somebody asked us, so what are you going to, are you going to Amritsar? And we said, no, we're going to Lahore. Every single person on the flight said, whoever asked, how lucky. Oh wow, oh my God. This morning when I was checking my mail, I'd written a column this morning which appeared this morning, which is called Lajawab Lahore, the temptress from across the border. And I have said that like Lahore and Karachi, I mean the rivalry will be there forever and ever, and that's what keeps the challenge and the tension going, and it's wonderful. I mean competition is always good. It's the same kind of competition that we in India sense between Delhi and Mumbai. Now Karachi and Mumbai are in fact almost like twin cities, they're port cities, and the nature of the people there is, we are like worker ants, you know. To use Bollywood language, it's dhanda, dhanda, dhanda. We're always, you know, time is money, time is money. But Lahore is languorous and indolent and fabulous and extravagant. And no one's in a hurry. And there's time for real stuff. There's time for love. There's time for poetry. There's time for food. There's time for friendship. All of that. Losing out on that so much in our pursuit of some kind of ambition or some vague targets we are setting for ourselves, which may make us very successful in material terms, but in reality we are really very lonely. And in my column I ended it a little naughtily because that's how I write. And it said that Lahore is like a pampered, beautiful mistress, where Karachi is really just the boring wife. Yeah.
I want to start asking you about your column for Times of India. It's titled Politically Incorrect. You've always, as I said, you've always been very unapologetically and refreshingly outspoken. You've alluded to Rahul Gandhi liking gentlemen in the past, and after his most recent interview, you blogged asking, "Is dumb the new brilliant?" So I wanted to ask you, this political incorrectness, so to speak, has it come at a personal or professional cost to you?
Well, as I always say, if you don't like the heat in the kitchen, don't get into it, stay out. When I chose to become or rather, the profession chose me almost by default in a way. I knew what I was getting into, so I cannot say, oh my God, what are all these nasty things that are happening and how can I be targeted? Yes, the minute you put yourself on the line, in any society, in any country, even the world's most so-called liberal democracies, you're putting an opinion on the line that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, that doesn't suit the establishment, and that can get you into trouble. It has, for me. I've faced lawsuits, I've been charged with treason. There have been just very recently a tweet, a pretty innocuous tweet if I may say so, innocuous by my standards, at any rate, but generated a backlash which was, I couldn't really have anticipated from right-wing parties in my city. And I had police escort for almost a month and a half, where I was virtually a prisoner in my own home, as it were. And there were demonstrations at our gate, not always pleasant stuff to deal with. But when I was asked at the height of this whether I was ready to apologize by people who had called me, I mean, these were so-called leaders of what I would call parties which really have very low morality and very low public standards to start with. When they were questioning me as a woman, hitting below the belt, making all kinds of awful charges, and threatening to, in fact, escalate the protests against me There were questions in the assembly saying that I should be arrested because my tweet would lead to a law and order problem in the city, which is rubbish. It was nonsense, of course. At that point, well, the tweet, because it's really very contextual. India has just acquired a new state of Telangana, the 29th state. At that time, it wasn't official. There was just an announcement of the state, the formation of the state. And my tweet had to do with, it starts with Telangana, where does it stop? And Mumbai has always fancied itself as a separate entity. So let the fun begin. That's all it said. But it was taken as my position being that Mumbai should separate from the state of Maharashtra. Even had it been stated so categorically, I wasn't the first person saying it. It's been said for 20 or 30 years by various political parties. So at any rate, I was asked on television whether I was ready to apologize for that comment. And I just landed in Kolkata airport for some other function when I suddenly realized how it had completely spun out of control, and there were all these television cameras asking, so will you apologize? Why you would apologize? Don't you think you should apologize? And I said to myself, it was a split second, it's touch and go. If I make that one wrong move and apologize, I will be surrendering to tyrants, and I will not do that. So I said, this lady will not back down. So, do it. Like most bullies in most countries and cultures, they backed off. So the point is, you have to stand up. You have to stand up for what you think is right. Yes, sometimes there is a price to be paid, but I would pay it over and over and over again.
I wanted to ask you, you define yourself as a feminist, and you are a very successful woman in a very dichotomous India. I mean, on one hand, you have there are women in India who are breaking class ceilings. You have powerful female politicians, journalists, actresses, businesswomen. And on the other side, very similar to what's happening in Pakistan and much of South Asia, you have this very patriarchal and feudal society, and that kind of forms how women are treated and how women are viewed. And you have these very brutal and violent rape cases happening in India right now. So how is it being a feminist writer and a woman at this very pivotal point in India's history?
There's a wonderful young poet, and her lines have always inspired me. Her name is Anusuya Sengupta. And she had said a few years ago, in too many cultures and in too many countries, women speak the same language of silence. And it's important for those of us who don't have to be in that situation where we are imprisoned by our own silence to speak up. And I've always done that. Not to make any point, and I don't define myself as a feminist at all. I would stand up for a man who is under pressure. If the man in a situation where the underdog, it just so happens that in patriarchal societies, in feudalistic societies such as in Southeast Asia, normally the underdog, the one who's oppressed, is a woman. So I would speak up regardless. It's not just gender that defines my concerns. It goes well beyond that. But having said that, it's a country full of contradictions and many centuries which collide and often collapse into themselves. It's a culture that cannot be very easily demystified, decoded, understood. But at the same time, it's important to know that our constitution has always guaranteed women their safety and equal rights. All I've been saying strenuously for over 30 years is what we want is what our constitution guarantees us, nothing more, nothing less. If we are to be safe in this environment, it's for the people to interpret and make sure they follow the law. That's it. And I don't think that's too much to ask, and that's all women are asking. So the stepped up brutality that we are witnessing, I mean, I have my own reasons for why I think that is happening. And the reasons have generally, with any such cataclysmic social change that takes place very quickly, which is our attitude towards women, which has always been whatever it may have been, but it was never translated into the kind of brutality we're living through, and the rapes which unfortunately had made us, especially Delhi, notorious as the rape capital of the world, which is a terrible tag to live with, and it's something that we have to fight. The reason I believe is always economic. The bottom line always counts in any social change. And if we are talking about 12 lakh unemployed, educated people out there in the workplace with no jobs, a lot of them being men, and the jobs that there are being kind of, that space is being intruded by maybe more aggressive women who also are educated, are ambitious, want to get ahead in life. We are really talking about a situation where there's a scramble for jobs. And if the men are feeling threatened and demoralized and frustrated on account of various social issues, but also because they can't find any other way to express their rage except picking on victims people.
I mean, along with all these problems, it is still an exciting time to be in India right now, especially with the elections coming up this year. You told me at dinner last night that you think that these could be the most pivotal and most defining elections in India's history, probably since the partition. So, so I wanted to ask you, I mean, there's never been a more interesting time to be an Indian voter, or a more difficult time to be an Indian politician. So, what are some things that you're hoping to see changed with these elections? What are you excited about?
Well, for me, really this, as I mentioned to you last night, is perhaps the single most important election since independence. It is the defining election, and this is going to be an election that is unprecedented in terms of the kind of players right now. But I'm a great optimist. I always believe that times such as these, where there's a huge churning that's happening and a huge churning that's intellectual as well as emotional, a leader somehow emerges from somewhere very unexpectedly. And I always say in all my columns that at the end of the day, the star of this election is not any politician, it's the voter. And the voter has the hatyar in his or her hand. The voter, the Indian voter, almost 50% of India is under the age of 30. The voter is informed and aware, and they have to engage themselves with the political process if they are to make that difference. They cannot be on the sidelines anymore. They have to go out there and vote. And of course, when I talk to young students across India, they always ask, what are the choices in front of us? We are disillusioned. None of these people really inspire us. Completely understandable. I joke about it. It's not an original comment. I have to say that. I wish I had made it, but I didn't. The choice right now in India from the candidates there is a choice between a muffler, a duffer, and a bluffer. The young are not impressed. They want a choice. Who and what represents the choice, we still don't know, but I haven't given up hope. Somehow, from somewhere, the Indian voter has always voted with a great amount of, almost like a robust common sense. And they have voted against all predictions and against all patterns. And I'm hoping this time too. I don't quite know. But since you did refer to Rahul Gandhi's interview, and I have commented a great deal on it. And I did say that dumb is the new brilliant, or at least that seems to be the intention of that Montessori level interview, which was perhaps the most watched interview of a young politician in our region. But there is a flip side to that interview, and it's not people like me who are actually going to matter at all. People may refer to us as opinion shapers, they may call us opinion makers, but at the end of it all, the English-speaking, the so-called elite, don't even represent 1 or 2% of the voter or of the person who's actually going to be out there deciding who the next leader is. If whichever that leader is appeals to that one person and makes just 3 things, one of which is completely out of the agendas of political parties, 3 things. Corruption has already been tabled. Corruption is the single most important issue for any politician who moves to be a leader to tackle in India today. That's a given. Unemployment is something we have kind of swept under the carpet, and we are not willing to acknowledge there are 70 lakh unemployed right now, young people, educated young people in India. We don't want to talk about that statistic because it's not a good statistic. But the third one, which I think is much, much more important, which is completely being relegated, it has no presence, is the narrative which involves women. What most of the political parties, including the Panch Deviyan, as I call those ladies who have exercised enormous amount of power, they have not addressed the female vote at all. They're not trying to woo the female vote. Now the female vote again is a very important vote in terms of money power, in terms of opinion, in terms of the number of professionals we have in the workplace, in terms of women in positions of enormous power as key professionals. We have 10 women who head huge banks, for example. We have women who control media, not just participate in media. We have women professionals. Statistics are enormous, probably higher than those in the United States. With all of that and the power that a woman has to influence others, if she is out of this narrative of the new elections, it's going to be at the loss of the politicians who are giving such short shrift to the female vote. The female vote can and did change what happened in Delhi. The female vote was what made Arvind Kejriwal, whatever that misguided adventure of his was. But at any rate, it was the women who backed him. And they backed him even though he wasn't directly addressing what they needed, but since he was talking about violence against women, it was an important enough issue in Delhi particularly to vote for change and to vote for him. I don't see that happening in other states. I don't see that happening across India. I don't see women in the picture at all. At a time when the statistics are right there, when we're talking about the brutalities escalating after the fire and beyond, if you're going to treat women so shabbily, I'm sorry, it's just going to cost those politicians the female support, and they can't afford to ignore women anymore.
So is there any one person or party that you would like to see emerge from this election?
Out of the marvelous and everyone? No, definitely not. Or the bluff.
So you hoping to see?
No. I just feel India deserves far better. And I wish it were possible to, I don't know, create, right now I'm feeling so desperate but also optimistic desperate. And as I said earlier, it's a kind of election that is so tumultuous and in a state of such churn that at this point I don't think anybody can say with complete confidence that it's going to be Modi who's going to win, even though the opinion polls seem to suggest that. But Bilawal and Rahul, Bilawal is still a babe in the woods, taking his first few steps. One can exclude several mistakes till he actually achieves something with his life, and at least we know what he stands for. But he is out there and he's trying to take a legacy forward, so good luck to the young boy. Rahul is 40 plus. I mean, you cannot compare the two. It's like a chota sa bacha hai, and here's a young adult. Kejriwal in his 40s. But we don't talk about him as a young man and we should make concessions. We don't. So I feel someone like Rahul, who's born into privilege, born into a politically, he's been marinated in politics. If he still doesn't have something to say to his country and to say to the young of the country, he, poor guy, leave him alone and let him party on in London. It is not So even though I mocked his interview, and I've said that it really is like a kindergarten child trying to talk with the big boys, he came across as vulnerable, he came across as genuine in his intentions, not terribly bright, but sincere. So I was watching it with young people, my children included, and their take on him and on that interview is totally different to mine. So maybe my generation is reading it all wrong. And they said, unlike all the oily politicians with their cliched comments and their magic wand, they all have a magic wand and they're going to solve all of our problems. Here's a guy blundering his way through a very tough interview, trying his best not to lose his nerve, sweating on camera, but at least he didn't pull off his mic and run away. Now, Mr. Modi has never faced an interview. The only time he did, he ran away. So, and I have asked for an exclusive many, many times, because there are a lot of issues, as I have, and lots of people across India, right-thinking people, I'm sure, have questions that they'd like to ask him. And I'm not just referring to Godra, I'm talking about much beyond that. I mean, just last week he talked about, it was almost comical to say that because he's a bachelor, which he isn't, he is a married man who has left his wife 2.5 decades ago, but that's all right. To claim that he has no family and therefore he will be less corrupt. I mean, that's a political theory worth thinking about. By the same token, Rahul Gandhi is not married and he could say the same thing. So could Mamata Banerjee, so could Mayawati, so could Jaya Lalita. I mean, all the people that I've talked about are theoretically single and without families. Are they less corrupt than the rest? This is a question worth asking. So I wish, whether it's him or anybody else who's aspiring to that office, which comes with a huge amount of not just responsibility but a lot of baggage, they should have the guts at this point, a critical time in the election process, to face the country, to face the young, to face women, and take what comes. If they can't take our questions, I mean, we are the people who are going to have trust, all our trust is going to be in this one individual. If they can't take a question from someone like me, a citizen, what are they going to do with far bigger questions coming from people who are outside the country? So unless they demonstrate in a democracy that they are ready to face the people, I'm sure they are. I mean, I just feel not just disheartened, but till that happens, their positioning of themselves, their status is suspect.
I wanted to go back a little bit, and because you're a good fan of journalism, I wanted to ask you, I guess more about the role of the Indian media these days. I know that you've complained a lot about this new thing that's PR journalism, and and how you have managers kind of planting stories in newspapers who complain that spaces in newspapers and channels have been bought by powerful politicians and businessmen. So, how true is that for India? Do you think that PR has started to define journalism? And how big of an issue, especially with this whole Wendy Doniker, book censorship, how big of an issue is censorship in India?
Media in India has always played a very, very key role. It's been a vibrant and free and a well-written media. I mean, we could always look at our newspapers and say they're as good as anything. They could top class in the world. Media, the compromises started, I would say, about 10 years ago. It started with Bollywood structuring deals with media to publicize films and publicize movie stars, quite like Hollywood does it. It's not unique to India. You have a manager or a publicist who manages you, whose job it is. It's really what that person is paid to do, is to buy space in important media and promote that star, especially if there's a new movie coming up. So the producers got into it, the movie stars got into it. I guess the politicians woke up to a great idea, which is to buy space and to influence the voter and to influence elections. It started at the local level when you were fighting assembly elections, when it was almost like a rate card was sent out by television companies, not the better ones. I'm talking about there are over 900 channels, so we're talking about fringe players, but with regional television playing an increasingly important role in opinion, you can't discount them. And when they started selling spots to politicians, not as ad spots, but as editorial, I think the compromise started at that point. Today, it's come to a stage where it's very, very cynical. The environment, media environment is very cynical. One starts to doubt every news report and wonder where it's coming from. That wasn't so earlier, so if the media is to play the role that it always has in our country, then this is the time to do a really major rethink about just honest media. And the questions are tough and hard, but the counter questions to all of that is it's all about the advertising space that media generates. So whether it's corporates, if this is someone in a corporate unhappy with the kind of media that person or that the company is getting, it's just easier to either withdraw advertising support or just flood that paper with so much support that they dare not raise a voice. It's buying media essentially. But the counter to all of this is because of social media and because we have an extremely powerful weapon which every citizen in India possesses, which is the RTI. So the right to information. Nothing and nobody is safe anymore from media scrutiny. And there is really no safe place, there's no place to hide. And everything is out there. So nothing remains a secret, nothing. None of the deals, nothing, no even secrets which go back many years. We can actually file cases and get them to table everything. So social media has played a huge, huge role. But I must say that this morning when I was, I had a quick look at the paper here, and there was a general who claimed that he could bring anyone down or flatten anybody because the army can do it. And to have that in a headline I thought was very, very bold and very free. And there are counters to that as well. And I think that's remarkable. I don't think that that will be headlined in quite the same way. Right now, the environment in India being what it is, whether a general making such a claim and saying it in a way that is unapologetic would even make it to a column somewhere on page, 35.
Yeah, I mean, the digital world is still, opinion is still quite uncensored. Is that why you started a blog?
The blog is a very democratic space for all of us. I mean, it makes you really a global citizen, being able to share your views in a way that frees you from any constraints. Mine is not a monetized blog, and I'll always keep it that way. So there are no commercial constraints on me. I write what I want to write. I feature people I wish to feature. I run pictures that appeal to me without thinking about who it's going to offend. But in all fairness, I have to say that having been a columnist for close to 40 years, not a single editor has ever tried to influence what I'm writing, censor what I've written, even if it goes against the business interests of those newspapers. Even though I know where their business interests lie, they have never once tried to tell me, oh, I think you should tone this down, or can you write another column, can you substitute this one with something safer or less charged. So to that extent, there are editors who I continue to respect hugely, and so long as those editors exist and so long as I can express my opinion fearlessly and fairly, I will continue to write my columns. But the day I'm asked to change my tone, I think it would just be easier for them to sack me, and they haven't done it. I think it's maybe my good karma.
And you've been an editor as well. You've magazines as well. Have you ever censored anyone?
No, hell no. No. If at all, as an editor, I would always say this is too tame. Where is the opinion? Where are your views? I don't need to read cold reportage, and particularly today. You can get cold reportage from anywhere. You can get it off the internet. Why would I pay someone and respect that person's byline if I don't know where that person stands. I'm not going to be paying for fence, people who are sitting on the fence. So I do believe that newspapers and news channels which do take a position have a far more credibility, and I think viewers and readers connect to what that channel or the newspaper is saying. You may not like what they're saying, you may not approve of it, but who says writing was ever about popularity? It was never that for me. It was always something that I felt very privileged that I had the space to express something strongly and truthfully. And if all those parameters change, and I hope they don't, at least in my lifetime, and I take great courage and great inspiration from someone like Pushwan Singh, who is close to 100 now, and still writing a weekly column. And it's still interesting, still spicy, never boring, and never predictable. Now those are the parameters I would use for a columnist. The minute you start being predictable, you lose your bite, you lose your individuality, and you could be just any byline and people won't even know after having read you, is that really her column or his column, or is it just a column? So long as they can tell from that very first line that yes, it's my column, I think I'm doing my job.
I wanted to end with, I know there are lots of people here who are eager to ask you questions, but I just wanted to end with, we've been talking about the media and its role. And, on one hand, it's really great to have this powerful tool in your hand where you can raise awareness for so many issues, such as, what happened with what's happening with all these rapes. That one woman, she really became a symbol. And but it can also go very wrong, such as with the sensationalization of the Shashi Tharoor and Sunita Pushkar incident.
I was waiting for that question.
I just wanted to ask you, because I met her in Goa once, and she was this very vivacious woman who loved life, and it was very hard for me to kind of, reconcile with the fact that she had taken her own life. So, can you just tell us, what happened? You knew her, right?
I knew her. I won't say that she was my closest friend, but she was like that. Everybody was, hello darling. Complete strangers. She would hug and kiss and very warmly welcome into her home or into her life. She was spontaneous. She was a giver. She was very, very fragile behind that facade. And I often felt she's compelled to play a role that maybe she wasn't entirely emotionally prepared to play. And she paid a huge price for that. But I still refuse to believe, and I never will, that 140 characters killed Sunita Pushkar. No one can kill someone on Twitter. So no matter what may have transpired, let's not make Twitter the alibi and say that's what killed her, because that's simply not the truth.
Thank you so much. So is there anyone who has any questions? I can't see it. I think this is last one.
The situation you depicted just before election, like unemployment and bad law and order situation in India, but why the left-center parties are losing space there, just like Pakistan? The communist parties are also losing there. What is the reason behind that?
I think their agendas, their stated agendas haven't been convincing enough and haven't been pro-growth, haven't been pro-progress as the young see it. The young in, I'm sure, both our countries are ambitious and restless, and they want to be like everybody else across the world. And they cannot identify with agendas which don't convince them that if left to the left parties, the country is going to push ahead. The fear is that they will bring the entire growth rate down. And I think today ideology has taken a backseat. The young aren't as idealistic as they used to be. It doesn't appeal to them anymore. It doesn't appeal to them perhaps anywhere in the world. What they're looking for is essentially stability. And they're looking for jobs, and they're looking for growth, and they're looking for safety. And they just want to be global. And it's understandable. In the process, if they lose some of their own identity or their idealism, well, that's the price we're going to be paying. But the left really does not have the kind of appeal. I won't speak about West Bengal because that's unique in itself, but Kerala and the left parties otherwise, no appeal.
Hello. Hello. What role do you see Sonia Gandhi playing, and how do you think history is going to judge her, the Italian bubble, the de facto Prime Minister?
I sincerely hope she is seriously packing her bags. She has, not to denigrate her, not to put her down, she has played an important role in terms of maybe holding her party together as a very powerful, almost like a matriarchal figure. And perhaps had she not been the super glue in that situation, the party maybe would have, it wouldn't have been this party to start with. And maybe it would have disintegrated or been far more disruptive. So let's give her credit where credit is due, but every person has a certain time frame in which they are effective, and during which period citizens, the country responds to them and looks up to them and respects them. And like a lot of cricketers will say, you should go before you're asked to go. I think she's in a similar position, like a cricket captain who refuses to move over and make place for the next younger person. And her attempt to perhaps push her son so far has not succeeded, but who knows what the elections might throw up.
Hi, I'm Lara. I've already started. May I, Shobha? Hi. With India being such a global country and being so open and coming and emerging on the world map as a country that is trying to prove that it's the best at everything, and we have open borders, and we invite people from India, so friendly. And it's amazing that why aren't there any channels which are working in India which can show something about Pakistan? But we have a lot of different channels over here. We watch your shows, we watch your programs. Though I would like some news channels as well. I am from the media myself. I work for Nation newspaper, and it was amazing to hear that there are no Pakistani channels being shown in India. That amazes me.
I think that would be a superb, constructive, intelligent step forward. It should happen. But the channels, the Indian channels that I see here are mainly Bollywood and nothing beyond. So unfortunately, each time I come to Pakistan, it's as if there is nothing much more to India than our ravishing, gorgeous movie stars and their songs and dances, which are indeed very seductive. But that obsession, I see, gets consolidated more and more and more because of the lack of exposure to anything else. And for us, it's the same problem. The only time there is any kind of exposure to what's going on in Pakistan other than on international news channels would be when some of your very articulate generals come on to Arnab Goswami's show, Times Now, and they hold their own wonderfully well. They come prepared, they've done their homework, and they're not cowed down, which is fantastic. This is what it should be, an interaction between equals. And that is the only way forward for both countries to work together. But at the end of the day, it's not just about a lit fest and cultural exchanges and soft skills and music and dance and movies being are the common denominator. The most important, I would say the most important game changer would be when we start doing business with each other in a more open environment. And that is when we'll be able to bring up the actual true links between the people-to-people links that we keep talking about will only happen when both sides are more receptive and open to doing business.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm from the frontier province, which is now called Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and welcome to Lahore. And I just wanted to ask you a regular question. Do you ever see a time when we can just travel across each other's countries and you can come to Peshawar and we can go across? I mean, it's so complicated, the reality.
It is indeed. inshallah, I hope it happens
Will
with
it happen
the
in our
change in
lifetime?
government in our lifetime.
Yes.
But so far it remains a distant dream. Even before getting our visas to come across, it was maybe 24 hours of touch and go, though we've been working on it for a long time. It comes in spurts. There is an opening up, things look positive, things look like we're moving ahead, we're moving forward, they're going to open up the borders, we're going to be able to go visit each other and gale lagao as we should be doing. That is not happening. There are political forces which are beyond all of us in this auditorium. And they have reasons which, like most political arguments and debates, are often very unpleasant and which we probably will never even know the full text of. So we can only hope and pray that our children can do it if we haven't been able to.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ji.
This question is on a lighter vein. Do you have any plans to revise or improve your book called Spouse?
It's a book that is surprisingly, it's done so well in so many languages and countries, but definitely, because I've been married to the gentleman now for over 30 years. When I wrote Spouse, it was around 20 years? No, less, 15 years. So I have more perspectives, more wisdom, more hindsight, and I'd like to say more love and more understanding, actually. So, a sequel is needed. Thank you for the suggestions. I must pitch it to my publishers when I get back.
We have time for one more question. This girl has been asking for some advice.
One more. This one in the back.
Hi, I just wanted to ask a question. You mentioned Lalita. Recently, a court order was passed and blocked about releasing Rajiv Gandhi's murderers who've been in prison for 20 years now. What's your opinion on that? I just wanted to know.
Well, I tweeted because there was no time for me to do a column because we were coming here and my column would have been a bit too late. So that's the kind of power of the tweet. You can say it immediately, and I was absolutely appalled and aghast that they could have been, the haste with which Jayalalitha responded, and I'm glad that the Supreme Court has intervened because the haste was indecent. At the end of it all, he was our Prime Minister and he was assassinated, and you cannot send out a signal of this kind, especially in an environment all across the world, not just in Pakistan and India, which is so volatile. And it was, I believe it was a very mischievous political tactic, and I don't know whether it will backfire or not. She knows her constituency better than I do, but I certainly hope it backfires enough to bite her.